The massive alien ship floated in the darkness of space. Inside, the Catherian High Council met for the first time in 1,000 years. The reptilian beings sat around a glowing table, their scales reflecting the cold blue light. Admiral Vextar stood at the head of the table, his scarred face serious as he looked at each council member. "The time has come," Admiral Vexitar said in his deep voice. 1,000 years ago we made a deal with the humans. We agreed to leave them alone, but that was because we were not ready to fight them properly. The younger Catherians listened carefully. War Prince Kelnath, eager for battle, leaned forward. "What has changed, Admiral?" he asked. Admiral Vextar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Everything has changed. We have spent 1,000 years preparing. Our weapons are stronger. Our ships are faster. We have created diseases that will kill any human. Our new quantum weapons can break through any shield they might have." The council members made excited noises. They had all heard stories about the old war with humans, how their great empire had been forced to retreat, how they had to sign a peace treaty that made them look weak. Now finally they could get their revenge. "Are you sure we are ready?" asked an old council member. The humans were difficult to fight before. Admiral Vextar's smile grew wider. "They are still using the same old technology. While we have been growing stronger, they have been sitting still. They think they are safe because of our treaty. They will never expect us to attack." War Prince Kelnath stood up. "Then let us declare war. Let us show the galaxy that the Catherian Empire is still strong," the council voted. Every member agreed. Admiral Vextar nodded and walked to the communication station. "Send the message to all human colonies. Tell them the 1,000-year truce is over. Tell them they have 3 days to surrender or we will destroy them all." Far away on Earth's orbital defense station called New Sol, Captain Lee Tae-ho was drinking his morning coffee. The space station was quiet, with only the soft hum of computers and life support systems. He was reading reports about shipping routes when his computer made a beeping sound. "Captain," said his assistant, "we're getting a message on all emergency channels. It's encrypted, but it's using the old Galactic Standard language." Captain Lee Tae-ho frowned. Nobody used Galactic Standard anymore except for historical research. "Put it on my screen," he said. The message appeared on his monitor. Captain Lee read it once, then read it again. Then he started to laugh. He laughed so hard that coffee came out of his nose. Other officers on the bridge turned to look at him. "Sir?" asked his assistant. "Is everything okay?" Captain Lee wiped his eyes and tried to stop laughing. "You need to see this," he said, sending the message to the main screen. The message was very formal and serious. It said, "To the human race. The Catherian Empire officially ends the 1,000-year truce between our peoples. We declare war on all human colonies and planets. You have 72 standard hours to surrender completely, or we will use our mighty fleet to destroy you. This is your only warning." Signed, Admiral Vextar of the Catherian High Council. The bridge crew read the message in silence. Then, one by one, they started to giggle. Soon the entire bridge was filled with laughter. Should we tell Earth about this?" asked the communications officer, trying not to laugh. Captain Lee nodded, still smiling. "Send it to General Park Min-soo at Defense Command. Mark it as urgent, but also mark it as comedy. He's going to love this." On Earth, General Park Min-soo was in his office reviewing training schedules when the message arrived. He opened it during his morning briefing with his staff. As he read, his serious expression slowly changed to amusement. "Well," he said to his staff, "this is interesting." He turned his computer screen so they could see the message. His aide, Colonel Kim Yun-ho, read the message and raised his eyebrows. "Sir, is this some kind of joke?" General Park shrugged. "I don't think so. The encryption codes are real Catherian. Someone actually sent this." He forwarded the message to the Global Defense Council with a note that said, "You're going to want to see this. Bring popcorn." The message spread through human space faster than light. On Mars colony, engineer Kim Bora was checking the atmosphere processors when her friend showed her the message on his tablet. She laughed so hard she nearly fell off her ladder. "Oh no," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. The space lizards are having a midlife crisis. On the mining station Titan 7, Foreman Choi Woo-jin gathered his workers during lunch break. "Hey everyone," he called out. "Listen to this funny message we got today." He read the Catherian Declaration out loud, doing his best serious alien voice. The miners burst into laughter. "Are they serious?" asked one worker. "Do they know what year it is?" Even the children found it funny. At Luna City Elementary School, teacher Ms. Yoon Hee-jin read the message to her students during current events class. "Today we received a very silly message from some aliens who have been sleeping for a very long time," she said. 8-year-old Park Ji-min raised her hand. "Teacher, why? Do the aliens think they can fight us? Don't they know about our spaceships?" Ms. Yoon smiled. "That's a very good question, Ji-min. I think the aliens forgot how much we've grown in the last 1,000 years." The class giggled at the idea of forgetful aliens. By the end of the day, the Catherian War Declaration had become the biggest joke in human space. People were making memes about it. Comedy shows were writing sketches. Some teenagers even started a contest to see who could write the silliest response. President Kang Ji-won of Earth decided that humanity needed to send an official response. She sat in front of a camera in her office, but every time she tried to read the prepared statement, she started giggling. Finally, she gave up on the formal response. "Dear Catherian friends," she said to the camera, still smiling, "thank you for your amusing historical reenactment. We appreciate you keeping the old traditions alive. We hope you enjoy your retirement hobbies and wish you well in all your future activities. Please let us know if you need any help with anything. Sincerely, the people of Earth." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Within hours, other alien species who received it were also laughing. The Catherian Declaration of War had become the most entertaining thing to happen in the galaxy for centuries. But on the Catherian flagship, Admiral Vextar was not laughing. As he listened to the human communications full of jokes and memes, he began to feel worried. This was not the response he had expected at all. War Prince Kelnath was angry. Very angry. He stood on the bridge of the Catherian flagship, watching the screens that showed human communications. Instead of fear and panic, all he saw were humans laughing and making jokes about space lizards and alien retirement homes. "This is insulting," he shouted, his scales turning red with rage. "They dare to mock the mighty Catherian Empire." Admiral Vextar stood quietly beside him, but inside he felt worried. Something was wrong. Humans should be terrified, not laughing. He had fought them before, 1,000 years ago. They had been tough fighters, but they should still fear them. "Catherian military. Perhaps," Admiral Vextar said carefully. "We should learn more about what the humans have been doing for the past 1,000 years. War Prince Kelnath turned to glare at him. "What they have been doing is getting soft and weak. While we prepared for war, they have been playing and having fun. Now we will show them what real power looks like." On the human research ship, Quantum, Dawn, Dr. Lim So-young was studying the Catherian communications with great interest. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. Her colleague, Dr. Ryu Jae-min, sat next to her, running computer programs to analyze the alien technology. "This is fascinating," Dr. Lim said, pointing at her screen. "Look at their technology signatures. These are the same principles they were using 1,000 years ago, just bigger and louder." Dr. Ryu nodded. "I've been running simulations of their bioweapons. The computer says they're basically enhanced versions of diseases that we stopped worrying about 800 years ago. Any human with standard immune boosters would just sneeze a few times and get better." Dr. Lim laughed. "It's like someone trying to attack a modern city with a really big stone axe." Meanwhile, the Catherians decided to launch their first serious attack. They sent a cyber virus designed to shut down all human computers and technology. War Prince Kelnath watched proudly as their best hackers sent the virus toward Earth. "This will show them we are serious," he said. "When their lights go out and their ships stop working, they will beg for mercy." On Luna Base, tech specialist Oh Da-yoon was monitoring the computer networks when she noticed something unusual. "Huh," she said to her partner. "Someone just sent us some really old computer code. It's trying to break into our systems, but it's so outdated that our firewalls think it's a historical document. Her AI assistant chimed in with a cheerful voice. The incoming code appears to be a primitive virus from approximately 900 years ago. Shall I add it to the Computer History Museum archive? Oh, Da-Yun grinned. Yes, do that. And send a thank you note to whoever sent it. The museum will love having such a complete example of ancient hacking techniques. The Catherian cyber attack had failed completely. Not only had it not damaged anything, but humans were actually grateful for the historical artifact. Admiral Vextar was now seriously worried. He went to the ship's archive and began searching through old records about humans. What he found made his blood run cold. The records showed that humans had not been sitting still for 1,000 years. They had been growing and changing at an incredible speed. Their technology had advanced not just a little bit, but in ways that seemed impossible. They had learned to control gravity, to fold space, to create energy from nothing. Some reports even suggested they had learned to manipulate time itself. But surely these reports were exaggerated. Surely no species could advance that quickly. His doubts were answered when Captain Bei Sung-ho's cargo ship encountered a Catherian scout vessel. Captain Bei was carrying supplies from Earth to the colonies, a routine trip he had made hundreds of times. He was listening to music and enjoying the peaceful journey when his ship's AI spoke up. Captain, there appears to be an unknown vessel approaching. They are attempting to disable our engines with some kind of energy weapon. Captain Bei paused his music. Are they succeeding? No, Captain. Our standard protective fields are absorbing their energy output completely. They appear to be using technology from approximately 8 to 9 centuries ago. Captain Bei sighed. I suppose these are the Catherians everyone's been talking about. Are they trying to board us? Yes, Captain. They have launched a small craft. It should arrive in approximately 3 minutes. Well, let them aboard. Maybe they need help with something. The Catherian boarding party consisted of 5 heavily armed soldiers. They expected to find terrified humans begging for their lives. Instead, they found Captain Bei waiting by the airlock with a thermos of coffee and some cookies. Hello there, Captain Bei said cheerfully. Welcome aboard. You look tired. Would you like some refreshments? The Catherian soldiers looked at each other in confusion. Their leader stepped forward, pointing his weapon at Captain Bei. Human, you are now our prisoner. Surrender your ship, or we will destroy you. Captain Bei nodded politely. I see. Well, I'm afraid I can't give you my ship, because I have a delivery to make. But I can offer you a ride to wherever you're going. Where did you want to go? The Catherian soldier was so confused he forgot to be threatening. We are here to capture you. Oh, said Captain Bei, looking disappointed. I'm sorry, but I really can't be captured right now. I have a schedule to keep, but here, take some cookies for your trip home. He handed the soldier a bag of homemade cookies and patted him on the shoulder. Your ship looks a bit damaged. My repair drones can fix that for you if you'd like. The Catherian soldiers returned to their scout ship in complete confusion. Their weapons had been useless, their boarding action had failed, and somehow they were carrying a bag of delicious cookies. War Prince Kelnath was furious when he heard the report. Ready the planet cracker, he ordered. We will show them the HFY true power of the Catherian Empire. The planet cracker was the Catherians' ultimate weapon. It had taken them 800 years to build. It was designed to destroy entire planets with one shot. They had saved it for the final moment of their revenge. Admiral Vextar watched nervously as the massive weapon powered up. Perhaps we should reconsider, he said. Maybe we should try to negotiate. No, War Prince Kelnath interrupted. We will destroy their moon as a demonstration. Then they will know to fear us. The planet cracker fired its devastating beam toward Earth's moon. The energy beam was bright enough to light up half the solar system. It was powerful enough to crack a planet in half. And then something impossible happened. The beam simply stopped. It hit what appeared to be empty space around the moon and scattered harmlessly, like light hitting a mirror. On Luna Base, Commander Shin Yuna was doing paperwork when her aide, Lieutenant Ju Min-ho, knocked on her door. Commander, he said, someone just fired some kind of energy weapon at the moon. Our perimeter shields absorbed it. Commander Shin didn't look up from her reports. Probably just the Kitherians testing their old toys. Make a note in the log. Unknown energy discharge, no damage, no threat level. Should we respond, Commander? Send them a safety reminder about firing weapons near inhabited areas, and maybe include a brochure about the wildlife preserve. We don't want them disturbing the space whales. Throughout human space, people had stopped laughing, not because they were afraid, but because they had finally noticed that something was happening that required their attention. Admiral Vextar stared at the tactical display in horror. Their ultimate weapon had been stopped by something that didn't even show up on their sensors. War Prince Kelnath stood frozen, unable to believe what he had just seen. What? Admiral Vextar whispered. Have we gotten ourselves into? Admiral Vextar stared at the screens showing their failed planet cracker attack. The most powerful weapon in Kitherian history had been stopped like a child throwing a ball at a wall. Around him, the bridge crew whispered nervously to each other. How is this possible? War Prince Kelnath demanded. Nothing can stop the planet cracker, nothing. Before Admiral Vextar could answer, something appeared on their sensors. Human ships were materializing throughout Kitherian space, not attacking, not threatening, just appearing like neighbors dropping by for a visit. Captain Lee Taeho's ship, the Harmony, appeared right next to the Kitherian flagship. Admiral Vextar's crew panicked, rushing to battle stations and raising shields. But the human ship just sat there peacefully. Then Captain Lee's voice came through their communications. Hello there. This is Captain Lee Taeho of the human vessel, Harmony. We noticed you folks seem to be having some technical difficulties with your weapons. Do you need any assistance? War Prince Kelnath grabbed the communication device. Human, you dare to mock us. We are the mighty Kitherian Empire. Oh, absolutely, Captain Lee replied cheerfully. We remember the Kitherian Empire. Great, folks. We actually have a whole section about you in our historical museums. How have you been doing? It's been, about 1,000 years since we last talked? Admiral Vextar felt something cold in his stomach. The human was talking to them like they were old friends, not enemies. Like the Kitherians were something quaint and interesting, not dangerous. On Earth, President Kang Ji-won called an emergency meeting. But instead of generals and admirals, she called together the Department of Interspecies Relations. Director Nam Hyunwoo arrived with a thick folder of reports. What's the situation? President Kang asked. Director Nam opened his folder. Well, Madam President, it appears the Kitherians have been preparing for war using technology that's about 900 years out of date. Their entire fleet consists of approximately 50,000 ships that couldn't effectively challenge one of our patrol boats. He showed her a holographic display of the Kitherian fleet. Their weapons use principles we moved beyond centuries ago. Their shields couldn't stop a modern child's toy laser, and their empire now controls less territory than the city of New Singapore. President Kang shook her head. How did they fall so far behind? They didn't fall behind, Director Nam explained. We just moved forward very, very fast. While they spent 1,000 years building bigger versions of old weapons, we've gone through 3 technological revolutions. We've learned to manipulate space, time, and reality itself. Dr. Lim So-young, working on her research ship, made an important discovery. She had been studying Kitherian society through their communications and historical records. What she found was sad. They never grew, she told Dr. Ryu Jae-min. For 1,000 years, they kept the same government, the same social structure, the same way of thinking. They just made everything bigger and louder but never different. Dr. Ryu looked at his computer analysis. Meanwhile, we've become something they can't even understand. We've solved scarcity, cured aging, eliminated most diseases, and learned to treat the laws of physics like suggestions rather than rules. The most embarrassing moment for the Kitherians came when they tried to use their bioweapons. They had spent centuries developing diseases designed to kill humans. War Prince Kelnath personally ordered the release of their deadliest plague toward several human colonies. Medical Officer Park Hae-won on the hospital ship Mercy received samples of the biological attack. She ran them through the standard medicals, scanner and started laughing. "Oh my," she said to her assistant. "Look at this. Someone sent us a really old strain of modified flu. This was dangerous about 800 years ago before we developed modern immune systems." She prepared a response message. "Dear Catherian friends, thank you for the interesting biological samples. We've added them to our medical history collection. We're also sending you some modern medicine that should help with several genetic health problems your species appears to have. Stay healthy." The Catherian bioweapon had been not just defeated, but turned into a humanitarian aid opportunity. War Prince. Kelnath was becoming desperate. He ordered a full assault on Earth itself, sending thousands of ships toward humanity's home world. This would be their final, glorious attack. But when the Catherian fleet arrived at Earth's coordinates, they found empty space. Earth wasn't there. Navigation. Officer An Subin on Earth's command station watched the confused alien fleet searching the wrong place. She opened a communication channel to help them. "Hi there," she said brightly. "You folks look lost. Are you looking for Earth? We moved it last century for better solar positioning. Let me send you our new coordinates. Oh, and there's a really nice rest stop at Station Gamma 7 if you need fuel or snacks." She transmitted not just Earth's new location, but also helpful maps of the local area, traffic updates, and a guide to nearby tourist attractions. Admiral Vextar realized that humans had moved their entire planet, like he might move a chair. The casual ease of it terrified him more than any weapon could. Finally, he received a personal message that changed everything. It was from Admiral Hong Kyung-soo, commander of human space forces. The message was polite and friendly. "Dear Admiral Vextar, I hope this message finds you well. I remember reading about you in our history books. You were quite respected as a military leader. I was wondering if you'd like to visit our new Geneva station for coffee and pastries. We could discuss your current situation and see if there's any way we can help. The coordinates are attached. Looking forward to meeting you. Best regards, Admiral Hong." Admiral Vextar looked at the coordinates. According to all Catherian maps, it was empty space, but he had learned not to trust their maps anymore. When he arrived at the location, he found a space station the size of a small moon. Ships from dozens of different species were docking and departing. Species that the Catherians thought were extinct were walking around, talking and laughing together. Station Director Kwon Yoon-ji met him personally at the airlock. She was a small, elderly human woman who greeted him like a grandmother welcoming a grandchild. "Admiral Vextar, how wonderful to finally meet you. We've heard so much about you from the historical records. Welcome to New Geneva Station. Can I offer you some refreshments? We have tea from 12 different worlds." As she led him through the station, Admiral Vextar saw something that shattered his understanding of the universe. This wasn't just a space station. It was a thriving city in space, home to millions of beings from hundreds of different species, all living together peacefully. "How many species are part of your alliance?" he asked weakly. Director Kwon smiled. "Oh, we don't really have an alliance. We just have neighbors. Last count was about 230 species in this local galactic cluster, but more join us every year. Not because they have to, but because they want to." Admiral Vextar felt his worldview crumbling. The Catherian Empire had been built on the idea that different species must fight each other. But here was proof that cooperation was not just possible, but natural. "What?" he asked. "Do you want from us?" Director Kwon looked surprised by the question. "Want from you? Nothing at all. We want things for you. Health, happiness, freedom, to grow as a people, same as we want for everyone." For the first time in 1,000 years, Admiral Vextar began to wonder if the Catherian Empire had been wrong about everything. Admiral Vextar walked through New Geneva Station in a daze. Everything he saw broke another piece of what he thought he knew about the universe. Director Kwon Yoon-ji led him through corridors filled with beings from species he had never seen, before all of them living and working together peacefully. "This section here is our Cultural Exchange Center," Director Kwon explained, pointing to a large area where different aliens were teaching each other art, music, and cooking. The Zephyrians are sharing their crystal singing techniques with some human children, and the humans are teaching them how to bake bread. Admiral Vextar watched a young Zephyrian, a being made of living crystal, carefully kneading dough while a human child showed them the proper technique. Both were laughing when the dough stuck to the crystal being's hands. "How is this possible?" Admiral Vextar asked. "Different species cannot live together peacefully. It goes against nature." Director Quan looked at him with gentle eyes. "Admiral, may I ask why you believe that?" "Because—" Admiral Vextar stopped. He realized he believed it because that's what the Catherian Empire had always taught. Because their whole society was built on the idea that they must dominate or be dominated. Because that's how it has always been. "Not always," Director Quan said softly. "Just for the Catherians. Most species discover cooperation pretty quickly. It's much easier and more fun than fighting." Their tour continued to the engineering section, where Engineer Kim Bora was working on something that made Admiral Vextar's head hurt just to look at. She was casually manipulating what appeared to be a small star, adjusting its energy output like someone tuning a radio. "Oh, hello," Engineer Kim said when she saw them. "Sorry about the mess. We're working on a new solar system for the Delphine refugees. Their old star went unstable, so we're building them a better one." Admiral Vextar stared. "You're building a star?" "Well, technically, we're reorganizing existing matter and energy into stellar formation," Engineer Kim explained cheerfully. "It's pretty routine these days. Takes about 3 weeks to get a nice, stable star with good planetary orbits." She showed him a holographic display of their project. "See, we'll put their homeworld here, in the perfect habitable zone. Then we'll add some nice gas giants for protection, maybe a few asteroid belts for mining. The Delphines love beautiful sunsets, so we're tuning the star to give them particularly pretty light." Admiral Vextar felt dizzy. The humans were creating solar systems like the Catherians might build houses. Research Director Go Jun Seok took over the tour next, showing Admiral Vextar the science laboratories. "We're working on some interesting projects," he said casually. "Controlled entropy manipulation, localized time acceleration for farming, and we're close to figuring out how to prevent heat death of the universe." "Heat death of the universe?" Admiral Vextar repeated weakly. "Oh, that won't happen for trillions of years," Director Go said. "But we like to plan ahead. Better to solve the problem before it becomes urgent." The most devastating revelation came when Dr. Ryu Jae-min showed Admiral Vextar humanity's historical database. The Admiral expected to find detailed military records about the Catherian threat, plans for defense against their eventual return, warnings about their dangerous technology. Instead, he found a simple entry: Catherian Empire, historical contact, peaceful resolution, status, protected species monitoring for welfare. Notes: territorial species prefer isolation, recommend non-interference policy, check periodically for health and safety needs. Protected species, Admiral Vextar whispered. Dr. Ryu nodded. "We've been quietly watching over Catherian space for centuries. Whenever other species got too close to your territory, we redirected them. When that solar storm threatened your outer colonies 200 years ago, we sent some shielding equipment. We left it where your people would find it and think they invented it themselves." Admiral Vextar felt something breaking inside his chest. "You've been protecting us?" "Of course," Dr. Ryu said, looking surprised. "You're our neighbors. That's what neighbors do." On the Catherian flagship, War Prince Kelnath was monitoring Admiral Vextar's tour through hidden cameras. What he saw made him angrier and more desperate with every passing hour. Everything the Catherian Empire had built their identity on was being revealed as meaningless. In a final act of desperation, he ordered the activation of their ultimate weapon, a doomsday device that would tear a hole in space-time itself. It would destroy everything within several light years, including both fleets and several innocent star systems. "If we cannot win," War Prince Kelnath declared, "then we will take the humans with us." The weapon began powering up, drawing energy from the ship's core and creating dangerous distortions in space around them. Alarms blared throughout the Catherian fleet as the reality-tearing device prepared to activate. Just as the weapon reached critical power, Captain Lee Teho appeared on the Catherian bridge. Not through teleportation or any visible technology. He simply walked through the ship's hull as if it wasn't there. War Prince Kelnath spun around, raising his weapon. "How did you get in here? Our shields." "Oh, those," Captain Lee said politely. "They're not really designed to stop someone who understands quantum tunneling. I hope you don't mind me dropping by unannounced." He looked at the doomsday weapon with mild concern. "I'm afraid I'll need to ask you to shut that down. It might disturb the wildlife sanctuary we established in this sector. The space whales get nervous around temporal distortions." War Prince Kelnath snarled and pressed the activation button. Nothing happened. Captain Lee had somehow disabled the weapon by simply looking at it. "Sorry about that," he said. "Here, let me fix the damage. The activation sequence did to your ship." He made a casual gesture, and suddenly the Catherian flagship was running better than it had in decades. Systems that had been failing for years were suddenly working perfectly. The ship's computer announced that all damage had been repaired, and efficiency had been improved by 30%. Captain Lee left behind a small device. "This will keep your ship running smoothly," he explained. "Consider it a friendship gift." War Prince Kelnath collapsed into his command chair, staring at the device that was already making his ship run like new. "What are you?" he whispered. Captain Lee smiled kindly. "We're humans. We're your neighbors. And despite everything, we're still hoping you'll come to the neighborhood barbecue sometime." He paused at the edge of the bridge. "Oh, and War Prince? You might want to talk to Admiral Vextar when he gets back. He's learning some interesting things about the galaxy." Back on New Geneva Station, Admiral Vextar sat in Director Kwan's office drinking tea that tasted better than anything he had ever experienced. He felt lost, confused, and strangely hopeful all at the same time. "I don't understand," he said, finally. "If you're so powerful, why didn't you just destroy us when we declared war?" Director Kwan set down her teacup and looked at him with grandmother eyes. "Admiral, can I ask you something? Do you have children?" Admiral Vextar nodded. "3 sons. When your children were little and they got angry and hit you, did you hit them back?" "Of course not. They were just children who didn't understand." Admiral Vextar stopped, understanding flooding through him. "Exactly," Director Kwan said gently. "From our perspective, the Catherian Empire is like a child having a tantrum. You're not evil, you're just young, and you can't help a child grow by hurting them." Admiral Vextar put his face in his hands. "We've been so wrong about everything." "Not wrong," Director Kwan corrected. "Just learning. Everyone learns at their own pace." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy station. "The question now is, what do you want to do next?" War Prince Kelnath sat alone in his personal chambers, staring at his reflection in the dark metal wall. Everything he had believed about himself, his people, and the universe had been destroyed in a single day. The Catherian Empire, once the terror of the galaxy, had become something pathetic. Children throwing stones at giants who responded with patient kindness. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had ordered attacks on humans who could have destroyed his entire species, without effort. The same hands that had activated a weapon that could have killed billions, only to have it gently turned off by a human who walked through their ship's hull like it was made of air. A soft chime announced someone at his door. Admiral Vextar entered, looking older than Kelnath had ever seen him. The old warrior's scales had lost their shine and his eyes held a deep sadness. "Admiral," Kelnath said quietly, "how did your visit go?" Admiral Vextar sat down heavily. "They offered me coffee and cookies," he said. "They showed me their children playing with the children of species we thought were extinct. They're building new stars for refugees. They've been protecting us for centuries and we never knew." He looked at Kelnath with tired eyes. "We're going to surrender." "Surrender to what?" Kelnath asked. "They don't want our territory. They don't want our resources. They don't even want us to change our government. What kind of surrender is that?" "The kind where we admit we were wrong," Admiral Vextar said. "The kind where we ask for help instead of demanding respect." On Earth, President Kang Ji-won met with the Global Council to discuss the Catherian situation. The room was not full of generals planning military campaigns, but social workers, teachers, and diplomats planning humanitarian aid. The psychological evaluation is concerning, reported Dr. Chang Mi-soo, the head of interspecies psychology. The Catherian species has spent 1,000 years building their entire identity around the idea of military superiority. Learning that they're completely outmatched isn't just embarrassing, it's traumatic. Director Nam Hyun-woo nodded. We need to help them find a new purpose, a new way to see themselves. But it has to come from them. We can't force them to change. What are our options? President Kang asked. Education exchanges, suggested Education Minister Lee Hun-woo. Let their young people see what's possible. Cultural programs, scientific cooperation, maybe some joint exploration missions. Social integration specialist Yang Mi-young raised her hand. I've been studying their communications. Their younger generation is already curious about the outside galaxy. It's the older leaders who are stuck in the past. Dr. Lim So-young led the first human delegation to the Catherian homeworld. She brought with her teachers, doctors, scientists, and artists, people who wanted to help, not conquer. The Catherian homeworld was beautiful but sad. The cities were built like fortresses, designed for a war that never came. The people moved, with the tired discipline of soldiers who had been training for a battle that would never happen. Young Catherians gathered around the human visitors with curious eyes. Dr. Lim showed them recordings of the galaxy beyond their borders. Worlds, where different species worked together, where technology was used to create rather than destroy, where children of different races played together in gardens under alien suns. One young Catherian named Zixara was especially fascinated. She asked Dr. Lim thousands of questions about human science, human art, human philosophy. Finally, she asked the question that mattered most. Could I learn to live like that? Dr. Lim smiled. Of course. But first, you need to choose a human name for the cultural exchange program. Something that feels right to you. The young Catherian thought for a moment. Song Hye-rin, she said. I want to be called Song Hye-rin. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took years. Admiral Vextar returned to Catherian space and met with the High Council. The debate was fierce and painful. Many of the older council members refused to accept the new reality. But the younger Catherians, led by Kelnath, who had dropped his military title, slowly convinced them that change was necessary for survival. Kelnath himself went through the greatest change. He requested to study at New Geneva University under Professor Yi Dong-hyun, specializing in post-scarcity economics and peaceful conflict resolution. His first lesson on how societies could exist without competition for resources broke his understanding, so completely that he spent 3 days in meditation, trying to rebuild his worldview from the ground up. Song Hye-rin, the former Zixara, made the first breakthrough that proved Catherians could contribute to galactic civilization. Working with Dr. Go Jun-seok on dimensional physics, her strategic mind, shaped by centuries of military thinking, found solutions to problems that had puzzled human scientists for years. It's remarkable, Dr. Go told his colleagues. The Catherian mind approaches problems from angles we never considered. Their emphasis on long-term strategic thinking gives them insights into complex systems that complement our more intuitive approach perfectly. The real victory came 5 years later, at the dedication ceremony for the first joint Catherian Human Research Station. Admiral Vextar, now Director Vextar of Interspecies Scientific Cooperation, stood beside Dr. Lim So-young as they activated the station's main computers. The station was built around principles that would have been impossible for either species alone. Catherian strategic planning had designed systems that could operate efficiently for millennia, while human innovation had created technologies that could adapt and grow over time. Professor Kelnath, wearing the simple robes of an academic instead of military armor, taught his first class on strategic thinking to a mixed group of human and Catherian students. His lecture was about how to plan for peace instead of war, how to build societies that could last forever without needing enemies. The greatest strategy, he told his students, is to make war unnecessary. In the back of the classroom, War College student Park Jinwoo raised his hand. "Professor, what if someone still wants to fight?" Professor Kelnath smiled, his scales showing the calm blue of deep thought. "Then you offer them something better to do." Ambassador Lee Tae-ho, who had once been Captain Lee, stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching Catherian and human children play together in the station's central park. The Catherian children were teaching the humans how to climb using their claws, while the human children were showing the Catherians how to play games that had no winners or losers. He thought about the message that had started everything, the formal declaration of war that had made everyone laugh. Now he understood why humans had laughed, not because they were cruel, but because they could see the future that the Catherians couldn't imagine yet. A future where different species didn't have to fight each other, where strength was used to protect rather than conquer, where the greatest victory was helping former enemies become friends. Ambassador Lee walked to the memorial wall where the names of all species who had joined the galactic community were inscribed. The Catherian section was now filled with names and achievements, scientists, artists, teachers, and explorers who had chosen to build rather than destroy. At the bottom of the section, in simple letters, was the inscription, "The 1,000-year truce is over. The eternal friendship has begun." Ambassador Lee smiled and headed home for dinner. His wife was making her famous noodle soup, and he had promised to bring dessert from the Catherian bakery. The young Catherian bakers had learned to make human-style pastries, and they were getting quite good at it. In the end, the greatest human victory had not been technological or military. It had been proving that even 1,000 years of hatred could be healed with patience, understanding, and the simple belief that everyone deserved the chance to become better than they had been before. The war was over. The friendship would last forever.